What's the good word, y'all? DKB here. So I happen to have been checking out the New Heights podcast this morning because checking out the title, I seen they had a special guest coming in and they had Sauce Gardner on the show, or at least by the time you guys are watching this yesterday. And they kind of went through a lot of, what his experience has been in year one, right? What was draft night like? What was his goals heading into his rookie season? What was his take on offensive coordinators, by the way? Like what drives his preparation, and helped him achieve what he did in year one, which was, historical in and of itself. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not an NFL, history buff, but I don't know off the top of my head any other cornerbacks that have achieved first team All-Pro and a Pro Bowl in their rookie season. I'm sure there's probably one or two out there, but either way, Sauce Gardner has definitely set himself apart from a lot of cornerbacks in just year one. So listening to the podcast, it was cool kind of getting a lot of his insights, but there was probably two main headlines, right? The first one being that when they talked about, preparation, kind of drive, mindset, focus kind of mentality. He spoke about offensive coordinators being enemy number one for him, and then quarterbacks for trying him, and then, of course, the wide receivers that he's actually guarding. So we know that the man is definitely hard-pressed and diving head first into film when he can, which is why the preparation, the technique, everything is on point the way it needs to be to have the season that he just had and to have the season that we hope he's going to have coming up, because the other major news that dropped from that was that his goals for 2023 are much loftier than what we've seen in his rookie year. So if we go back to draft night, which they kind of discussed, he did get questions about what he hopes to achieve in year one for himself. And it was crazy. I believe the three big goals were he wanted to make a Pro Bowl, which a lot of people would say, okay, that's not too far-fetched for a rookie. The second one was, and I believe he did clarify, first team All-Pro, which will leave a lot of people head scratching, because I don't think, I'm not an NFL history buff, but I don't think any cornerbacks have necessarily done that too many times, maybe two or three as a rookie. And then the third one, I believe, was to get his team to the playoffs. So hitting 2 out of 3, not bad whatsoever. But in 2023, he's looking to outdo himself. And his big goal is he wants to become the Defensive Player of the Year, which would, be the next gradual progression of being Defensive Rookie of the Year, I suppose, at least in his mindset. But to top that even, he wants to break something that hasn't been done in, over, I want to say, about 40-something years now. He wants to become the MVP of the league. Now, for comparison's sake, for those that aren't aware, only 2 defensive players in the entire history of NFL have won the award. The first one was defensive tackle Alan Page in 1971. The other was Lawrence Taylor in 1986. So this is going to be a tall feat to get done. And he even recognizes it much. He mentions a little disdain that when it comes to the MVP, he equated it to quarterbacks essentially being first team, ballot players for those awards. Even when you see outstanding seasons by defensive players, generally they're going to get Defensive Player of the Year and not MVP. And you can think of, all of the seasons Aaron Donald, for example, has put up as one of the guys that people have said is the number one defender in the league for, years. But I'm extremely excited to hear it, because it continues to reign true of the personality that we know from Sauce Gardner. I love that he's embracing the Lost in the Sauce moniker that the fan base has come up with for him. But I do have to question in my mind, what would it take for him to probably win an MVP? Defensive Player of the Year in and of itself is very hard, especially for a guy like him, because I think back to the Lions game specifically, which he also called out, where he had 0 targets. There's plenty of games where he had, less than, I think it was 4 targets on average. So he's not going to have a whole lot of opportunities for interceptions, which is probably going to be his calling card. And I compare it to a guy like Trayvon Diggs in recent memory, who was catching almost an interception per game at one point, and even that probably wouldn't have been enough for an MVP season. So I'd probably have to say if Darrelle Revis couldn't win it with the season that he had in, what was that, 2011 maybe? Either way, you guys know the one. Shutting down Megatron, shutting down Ocho Cinco. I think shutting down, who else did he have to play that season? Either way, I don't know. I don't know what he looked like. Probably double-digit interceptions. He'd probably have to have a few different games where he was not targeted at all. Maybe a couple fumbles and maybe a few return touchdowns in some fashion. Interceptions, fumble recoveries. I don't know. But considering history isn't on his side and that the two players in history that did do it were at defensive tackle, where you can get a little bit more shine and recognition, and linebacker, especially where as forceful of a player as Lawrence Taylor was, it's a lot more flashier than the cornerback position. I think it may be out of reach, but if anybody's going to be able to bring a little bit of flair, a little bit of sauce, and debate to the argument about a cornerback being able to win the MVP for the season, I think it would definitely be Sauce. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are. What would Sauce Gardner have to do in order to win MVP? Feel free to throw out your predictions for like a Defensive Player of the Year season as well from him, and I will catch you guys again. Peace.